Hey guys, it is Tuesday, it is 12, that means it's time for AMA, and oh my goodness, I am just lit up here. Okay, there we go, that's a little better with the lighting. Okay, so last week, during Tuesday's Ask Me Anything, we discussed your role in the design process and how to communicate effectively with graphic designers to ensure you get the work that you want. Now, after I did this video, I had a client reach out to me, Crystal Richards. She's amazing. She's great at project management. She owns a business that does that and trains other project managers. But she asked me a really great question on LinkedIn, and she said, I really would love for you to cover this in an Ask Me Anything. She said, how do you know when you need a new logo or when you need to rebrand? And I thought that was a great question for two reasons. Number one, rebranding and getting a new logo is expensive. And I'm not talking about the design work. Oftentimes, that's not the most expensive part of doing a rebrand. The most expensive part of doing a rebrand is implementing the new logo and all of the stuff you already have existing. So on the low end, that may look like business cards and a few pamphlets. On the high end, that could be apparel, uniforms, menus, napkins. I mean, you name it, huge signs if you have a storefront. It's not the cheapest process. You'll want to know before you do an investment, is it really, really worth it? Number two, when you rebrand, you have to combat against pre-existing thoughts and attachment that people have to your current brand. So you see this all the time when big companies rebrand. I'm talking about Instagram, Airbnb, Google when they make updates to their logo, which they're always making updates to their logo. People freak out. Even if the new logo is head and shoulders above your old logo, people have an attachment to the old logo. So, you really want to make sure, given the expenses that go along with it, and given the fact that you have to shift customers' mindsets, even if your logo is favorably doing that there's going to be some backlash, you want to ensure you're really, really rebranding for the right reasons. So we're going to go over 5 crystal clear reasons when it is time and what signals a rebrand when you should do a logo refresh. So let me just scroll down here. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. Okay. Number one, the most obvious reason you want to rebrand or get a new logo is that you have outgrown your current brand or logo. Most notably in the sense of geographical reach with your customer base or maybe structure of your company. So a lot of companies have names that are geographically oriented. They're centered upon your reach to your client base. I'm talking about restaurants that are, pizza shops of Towson or pizza shops of Baltimore, this and that of Maryland, something of DC, and now you're really looking to expand your business, grow your reach, and that name is now becoming a limiting factor in your journey to do that. Number two is if you've hired a bunch of people, you've restructured the overall organization of your business, and your brand is not speaking to that. So a lot of us who started as consultants may have our business named after our last name or our own name. Now we're bringing on a team. We're really increasing our bandwidth and our capabilities. Our name, our identity could be a limiting factor in painting you as much smaller than your business now is. So that's another good time when you could realize it's time to rebrand. So is your brand currently limiting your growth? Number two, is your brand vague? If you say your brand name and people have a lost look on their face, or they ask what industry you're in or what services and products you sell, typically that's a good sign you need to get a little more clear with your brand name. Guys, clarity is the key. A confused mind never buys. And that starts with your company name. If your company name sounds like it could be in any industry in the world, or you could be doing anything, you're not specific enough. But Kate, I want to, leave my options open. I do a variety of things. Fight that, guys, because the more specific and clear you are in your brand name and the language you use for the brand, the more effective your brand is going to be. So is your brand too vague? Are people confused about what it is that you do? Number three, this is a pretty obvious one, but it deserves its place in discussing this. Did you go through an acquisition or a merger? So when companies go through acquisitions or merger, it always begs the question, do we absorb the parent company's name? Do we take on the company we're acquiring name? Or do we just set the stage and create a new brand moving forward that's really uniting the two companies. So there's tons of factors you want to examine just in making that decision alone, but you want to consider things like reputation, size, product and service offerings. Why did you acquire or merge in the first place? Was it because of an illustrious brand image? That is going to impact what name you keep, but inevitably you're going to have to rebrand part of the company or all of the company. So mergers and acquisitions are a huge signal it's time to rebrand. Number 4, are you repositioning or expanding your offerings? So if you are, let's just say, let's take the example of marketing. Let's take my field. If you have a shop and you've called yourself something SEO, maybe like Johnson SEO, we'll use a vague name, Johnson SEO, and you're really designing out websites, you're doing maybe some social media strategy, you're doing other things, you're going to confuse people. Your name is way too limited. You're not just an SEO shop anymore. You need to reposition, pivot, maybe have a name that speaks more to Johnson Digital Marketing, right? So are you expanding your product or service offerings? Is your name limiting, or is it just too product or service centric? Colleen, I saw your question. I'm going to get to it in just a bit. Number 5, is there a bad reputation with your company? Do you have a negative reputation? Did lawsuits happen? Did you end up in court? Did something not so favorable happen with your company? This is often a good time to stop, reassess, not only maybe go back to what the vision, purpose, and commitment you have for your business is, but is it a good time to rebrand? Wipe the slate clean, set a new perspective, set a new image, and really move forward with building that up rather than trying to combat a negative stigma that you already have attached to the name. So those are 5 really, really great reasons why you may want to rebrand. But Crystal's question was not just about rebranding. Crystal's question was specific to when do you update your logo. So let's say everything's going really, really well. Your company name is fine. Your reputation is great. Your customers love you. And you're just wondering, is it my logo that's holding me back? Is my logo the thing that's prohibiting growth? I love the company name, but maybe it's just my logo. Then there's two kind of telling signs that it may just be a matter of a logo refresh. Number 1, your logo may not translate well on the internet or in the digital society that we exist in now. Many of you started your business a while ago when print was still predominantly taking over most of the channels your logo was distributed. So let's take the example of a restaurant, just a really great case study to use. A restaurant may have created a logo, and while it looks really fantastic on menus, uniforms, print collateral, signs, we're now in the digital era where people are coming to their website to check out the menu, they're downloading their app to order from, they're on other ordering apps, and your restaurant has to be super social. Your restaurant your logo may not be poised for digital presence. If you have scripty fonts, serify fonts, they don't always work well on a screen. Sometimes they can be hard to read. Big, huge horizontal logos like this, when you're talking about social media, who your logo needs to fit in a little box like this, it's not going to work. You have to size it down so small that nobody can even read it. So do you have design elements that are going to be favorable to having a social media presence or an app? When you're looking at digital presence, that can be a good indicator your logo needs refreshing. Again, other colors don't translate well in digital. Gold and silvers are beautiful in print. You can do a nice gold foil, super premium, super high end. When you shift this into a digital format, it just kind of comes across as bronzy brown, which isn't the most attractive color in digital. So as I love gold so much, and I always hesitate to use them in brands given the digital world we're in, because it kind of shows up as lackluster in a digital presence and makes you look more outdated than really refined and sleek. I'm not putting a sentence on gold as a whole, but those are things you want to be thinking about with your logo and if you need to update it. The other time is your logo just flat out outdated, right? And so what does that mean? How do you know if your logo is outdated? Number 1, you're embarrassed to show it to people. If you are embarrassed to show people your logo, it's generally a good time that you need to refresh it. It's a bit outdated. If other people tell you it's outdated, it's definitely time to just bite the bullet and look at a logo refresh. But here's what I really want to jump into. It is not always your logo that needs to be refreshed. There are a myriad of other core branding elements, visual elements to your brand that many people just don't consider when they're thinking about refreshing the overall look of their company. So I'm going to just peel back the curtain and talk to you about my company. I love my logo. I really do. I get a lot of praise on it. It's scripty, it's beautiful, it is really representative of who I am. But my colors, when I started my company, my intention was to work with small business owners and really give them an approachable, easy way to create a huge brand presence online. I wanted it to be not intimidating. I was really going after other entrepreneurs, small business owners, and consultants like myself. Now that my business has grown, I'm really looking to work with larger companies. So my colors, which were orange, bright blue, purple, fun, kind of creative, approachable colors, I now want to shift them to more blacks and whites and maybe just like a pop of coral or another bright color to really give it a refined image that matches more so the clientele I have now, which is larger clients and more of a premium and higher price tag. So I'm not changing my logo. My logo is suitable for that. It's the colors that I need to dig into, and I'm working with a great design team to figure out what those look like. But it's time to reposition just my colors, not necessarily my logo. I found that my colors are limiting me and who I'm trying to reach. So your brand is more than your logo. It's an accumulation of a few different things. It is the name of your company and your logo, your tagline or modifier, your colors, your font selection, your voice and tone, your imagery and multimedia use, photographs, and the way you use them in design is highly representative of the type of brand you have. Your messaging and positioning. These things combined make up your brand. It is not just your logo. Your logo is not your brand. Your brand is not just your logo. So if you're thinking that your brand is off in some way, it is worth it to work with an expert to really audit the brand and see what parts aren't pushing your brand forward. Oftentimes, it's not what you think it is. So if you're stuck, you don't know what part of your brand is holding you back. Maybe it's messaging, maybe it's something else. It's time to reach out and get some help. And if you want to, I actually provided a link for brand audits. Click it, you'll see the core components of what we go over, but you'll really get a deep dive into what isn't working for my brand so I know what to fix in my brand. Because if you don't have to go through the process of designing out a logo and implementing it everywhere, and there's other things that need to be done, you want to approach it with tact, with clarity, with your eyes wide open, and know what to do. So that was an excellent question, Crystal. I hope that provided a really, really great answer to what it is you asked. I'm going to scroll back up because there's actually another question here from Colleen. I've been wanting to rebrand since 2016. I'm stuck on my name change. I want to take the Baltimore out of my company name. Thank you for addressing this topic. Oh, okay, so maybe not necessarily a question, but Colleen, all the best to your rebrand. If you need any help, let me know. But guys, really, the biggest takeaway here is know why it is you're rebranding, know what parts of the brand you want to look for. It may not just be your logo. If you have questions, let me know. If you have questions that you want answered in an AMA format like this, go ahead, email them over to me. Happy to help. Otherwise, I hope you have a fantastic Tuesday, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks. Bye.